Hey, what's the dumbest character you've ever created? Let us know in the comments below. Come on, we won't judge. Today's sponsor is the best available. Come see these intrepid adventurers grow stronger and delve into the dungeon of the Mad Mage in a lovingly edited and illustrated D&D web series. Link in the description. A loxodon ranger fighter named Pokerface. He had no clothes, immense stealth, and was fond of grappling something, action surging, and casting spike growth. He had an Australian accent and was carnivorous. I created a meat-eating elephant that could hide behind a small patch of grass. He was named Pokerface because his tusks were pokey. I didn't expect that. I decided to become the party's dad, and by that, I mean my character was literally every other player's father. There was a human, a half-elf, half-orc, and an Aasimar in the group when I joined them 3 sessions in. Had some stuff going on during sessions 1 and 2. I thought it would be fun to play a cliché human bard who had seduced his way across the world in his youth, but was now an older gentleman. I worked with the DM to make it fit with everyone else's backstory. Sometimes my character had just left their mother to go adventuring, or in some cases faked his own death. I used different names and disguises over the years, charlatan background. Of course, my character didn't know the party were all his children, as he'd left them when they were young, or in the case of the Aasimar, before she was even born. I had to do some creative convincing to the DM to make it work that my character had a one-night stand with her mother, making me her biological father, while the man in her backstory, who was still alive, was the one who raised her. Over time, my character slowly realized he was their father as they shared stories about their pasts. He became more protective, but never revealed the truth because he was ashamed of the life he lived, tricking and using women for his own gain. The human and half-elf players figured it out eventually. The half-orc and Aasimar players picked up on it too, but their characters never did. When my bard died, his last words were, "I'm proud of you." I have an idea for a one-shot character. A goblin dressed as a bard, with a rapier, a lute, everything. But if you look closely, his clothes are a bit ragged with some bloodstains. If you get him to try and play the lute, absolutely terrible. Charisma is his dump stat. If someone comments on how bad it sounds, he goes into a rage. The twist? The goblin is actually a barbarian who saw a gnome bard sing and perform. Well, he wanted to do that too, so he killed the gnome and took his stuff. Been playing some one-shots in between campaigns. Last night, I played the Big Bad Wolf in a Shrek 2 themed one-shot. After our barbarian, Humpty Dumpty, was crowned king, he mysteriously disappeared off a wall and my grandma took the crown with eggshell bits still in her fur. Now, a few weeks ago, I played a community domain cleric from the third-party Humblewood books. He was a dwarf with an Italian accent, and his holy symbol was a golden ladle. He prepared healing rations for the group during rests and flung radiant pasta at enemies in combat. His name? Chef Boyardi. Datalus. He was a suit of animated armor, approved homebrew species, that rocked a sword and board build, fighter paladin. I rolled a 4 for one of my stats. The DM offered a re-roll, but I kept it and threw it into intelligence. The dude couldn't read, could barely speak, and had no understanding of the world around him. He didn't even have a name until the party gave him one. Smooth-brained, walked wherever, and without regard. But he absolutely slapped heads in combat. Of course, his character arc resolved as part of our mini-adventure. Turns out Datalus used to be a living creature, a minotaur named Asterian Thread. In an effort to help his fleeing allies escape from an onslaught, Asterian stayed back and held the line against hordes of enemies, eventually collapsing as they overtook him. But he held the line. The big bad of the mini-adventure cursed Asterian to be forever trapped in his place of rest, which became the suit of armor. His body decayed, but his consciousness remained, though unable to act. After centuries of being forgotten in this cavern, his consciousness eventually began to animate the armor itself with no memory of his past. After being named Datalus by the party, I leaned hard into Greek mythology. Just like Asterian was trapped in a suit of armor, I drew inspiration from the Minotaur in Datalus's labyrinth. The Minotaur from the myth was also named Asterion, so it felt fitting to tie it all together. His last name, Thread, was a nod to the red thread of fate used by Theseus to escape the labyrinth, symbolizing Asterion's eventual escape from his mental prison. A fun character with a little 2-month adventure that really stuck with me. Mark Carls, a communist dwarf forge cleric trying to get the working class to rise up and overthrow the bourgeoisie with 5 whole charisma. Now, since he didn't have proficiency, that's a -3 to persuasion. We got thrown out of basically every keep, castle, and palace we went to. Barth the Gluttonous, a human painted mage from a game system called Hackmaster. Basically a mage with a spellbook tattooed on his body, and since more skin equals more spells, Barth was gloriously obese, to the point where his maximum waddling speed was 1/4 of normal, just a smidge above totally immobile according to the system's encumbrance rules. He traveled on a tensor's floating disc and had a refrigerated bag of holding to carry all his chocolates into the dungeon with him. This was made for a personification of sins themed group that never fully got rolling. Scheduling for 7 players plus GM was just too much of a struggle. Right now, I'm playing a Tabaxi Swarmkeeper ranger who keeps a flock of seagulls. He's a former pirate and a sad divorced dad whose children hate him. His birds are his only friends now. He gets drunk and uses his swarm to steal food and be annoying. Constantly. A changeling paladin with whiz and int as dump stats. They're an amnesiac, incredibly stupid, and fully believe themselves to be a sorcerer, not a paladin. Knows absolutely nothing, but their only 2 goals in life are, number 1, finding out their original form, and number 2, saving whatever innocent is in trouble, in the least graceful way possible. Also, they don't believe in the existence of air. They think wizards created it to make spells work better, but when there are no wizards around, there must also be no air. A human fighter who took chickens, goats, and ducks with him everywhere. He consulted the wise chickens when any decision was on the party. The party decided to kill all the animals while I was sleeping, so I put one of the dead chickens on a rope and wore it around my neck. Still consulted the wise chicken. A monk named Punchy McPunchface. I also had a character based on Eddie the Head, the Iron Maiden mascot. That was for my first ever campaign, which never got past a few sessions. I really should rebuild that. Gnome Warlock, who's a massive conspiracy theorist, fully bought into the idea of a secret cabal that's been pulling the strings for decades. He publishes a newsletter about it and finances his fact-finding expeditions by selling bogus health potions and vitality tinctures. He's also casually racist and just kind of an asshole. His name? Xander Jones. Never actually got to play him. The party needed balance and XJ didn't fit the bill. But he's locked and loaded in case my current character gets offed. Extremely dumb human ranger. Funniest moment? He ate some mushrooms and got so high and dumb that he believed he could speak with giant spiders. He somehow convinced the spiders that he was their friend. I have a human fighter, Eldritch Knight subclass. Int modifier is -3. I went through all the wizard spells in the player's handbook and made a list of the ones that don't require a spell attack roll or saving throw. Only use those spells. I don't think I make dumb characters, but if I had to pick, I'd say my human paladin of Yondala, goddess of halflings, was. Classic not adventurer trope, his family was killed. It was a halfling cleric of Yondala who pulled him out of self-pity and gave him purpose. Played him as deeply religious, but laid back, which is honestly how I prefer to play paladins anyway. Used him for living campaigns, Adventurers League predecessor, but in pickup games you never usually get to share backstories, so he probably just seemed dumb. It's a tie between Meek, a plasmoid druid who accidentally became a vampire restaurant critic, and Archcount Archibald Byron Charles Demure Italian Falsier the Third, Lord of the Emerald Isles, an inquisitor working for an evil queen who had him do menial tasks like finding her lost shoes. Right away, your majesty. We tried once for a one-shot, which then lasted 6 sessions, to roll 4d6, drop lowest in order instead of point buy. I ended up with a barbarian with 16 strength, 18 con, 10 dex, 4 int, 8 charisma, and 5 whiz. First evening, hilarious. The rest, not so much. It was just hard for me to play dumb and not streetwise. I'm no Travis Willingham. I based the character on Sloth from the Goonies, but it's not really my style. If I play a barbarian, I prefer someone like Conan. 10 intelligence, wise as hell, and charismatic. Riddle-obsessed. Inspired by the MBM segment, Riddle Me Piss. He was a sorcerer who thought he was a wizard. Additionally, any trivial roadblock the group came across was, in his mind, a riddle. He would loudly exclaim as much and push forward even though he was rarely any help. The only time he didn't think something was a riddle? The magic door sealed by an actual riddle. That one confounded him beyond the capabilities of his 7 int. Well, it depends on what you mean by dumb. Greg Ori, the barbarian, has an int of 6, and he's a blast to play. Greg was made for a semi-homebrew campaign my buddy is DMing, which we occasionally return to. It's set in a version of Candlekeep that he's built his own world around. At Session 0, our DM asked us to give the library a new book in order to be accepted to the grounds as a student. Now, Greg can't read, but he has enough wisdom and guile to hastily make a series of crayon drawings bound together with string, which he passed off as his autobiography. Greg is an orc, aged somewhere between 18 and 40, searching for something he calls the muscle knowledge, something vague and ill-defined which he doesn't completely understand. Me and the DM have reached an understanding that it's something close to ultra instinct or control over the wild magic surges he's prone to have. He's a wild magic barbarian, with the wild magic flavored as a product of his incredibly vivid imagination. Recently, I dipped into Wild Mage Sorcerer, picking utility spells like Sending, Grease, and Comprehend Languages, which finally allows him to read, but only when he casts the spell. I get up to shenanigans with Greg. Here's a bit I quite like, when he dons a Santa hat and sneaks off to steal random books to donate to Candlekeep. A memorable episode took place on a ship in which I destroyed the captain's bespoke desk to steal her diary. It was chained to the desk, and instead of breaking the chain, I just hacked the desk in half and took the book and the desk chunk together. I escaped scot-free with some clutch nat 20s. The DM didn't expect me to do this, but actually had something written for when another character read the diary. The dumbest character as in, well, the one I put the least thought into? Sun Hat Jeff, the actual first character I ever created. He's a drow. He wears a sun hat because the sun hurts him. He made a pact with the Great Old One and carries multiple religious symbols. He jingles when he walks. He's also somehow become a reoccurring cameo character across multiple universes and multiple campaigns that my friends have run. I've had a lot of dumb concepts that went surprisingly well, but it's the one-shot characters where stupidity truly shines. Savior Prince was a very romance novel cover Fabio type. Long, flowing locks, deep, emotional eyes, chiseled muscles. I dumped so much into charisma and charm that everything else suffered. His backstory? A Sunday morning cartoon type, bit of a magoo. People plotted against him for his fortune, but he just went through life unaware as circumstance and villain mistakes protected him. And yet, he powered through the entire adventure. The only real damage he took was a single hit point, which manifested as a thin, artful red line across his chest. Later, the cult fired a ballista bolt at him from 10 feet away. It missed his AC by 1. It swept past his cheek and tore loose his tied hair. The dice loved this guy, with mediocre stats and negative intelligence. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA checking in after the vid. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and let us know in the comments below what's the dumbest character that you've ever created. And of course, if you want to support the channel, word of mouth, tell your friends. And if you also want to help out a little bit more, join our membership program. You keep the lights on running, and you get early access to videos. We love you all. See you next time. Toodaloo for now.